Alright, for this next set, I think what I want to do is I want to make a package for making maps. Okay. At some point I should start inputting information for that. I'll probably just hard code stuff now, and then input maps at a later date that have information that we need to know about different things that are going on, so that we can have more interesting things going on. But right now I really just want to sit with the one level and make that one level work. And so what I want to do is I want to break the map up into zones. These zones will be used for stories later on. And for each one of these zones, there'll be some number of rooms. And then I want to connect this, make sure the zones are connected, and make sure every room is connected, and then output a map. And I want to do that in such a way that we have information, the map has information that our improved quest system can work with, or actually our story system. So let's make a story system here. So the story system will just basically take the quest system and integrate it into the map in such a way that we get something that looks like a 3-act structure, or a 3.5-act structure, or a 5-act structure. It doesn't really matter. That's a little bit more theoretical than we really need to go for what is a story, right? But every story should have a beginning, a middle, and the end. You should have to complete the beginning to get to the middle. You should have to be able to complete the middle to get to the end, and the end gives you something that you want. Something like that. So that's where we're going to go, is with the story system. So we want to have a story system. So now we have a nice 7 things here. Again, this will probably be a really crappy story system, but we'll deal with that when we go on. We'll make it better later on. Just like we're going to start off by trying to make what we have a little bit better. So we want to take stuff that's right now in this game model, right, and put it into a map maker. So we need a new class, or a new package that will import GameModel.py, or I don't need the .py, and let's tell it that we're in Python and save it as we'll use map maker, not map model. Map model was something I was using to do pretty much the same thing before I decided to restart and actually tell you what I was doing as I went along. So I probably ought to just get rid of that, right? Should only keep the things that we're doing for this run through. Let's see. So what we need to do is we need to take these map creation things in the model here, and those are both in the model and in the class map. So those are both these are both things that these two classes have things that should be in the map, right? And not should be in the map maker and not part of the map, right? So, for example, assigning neighbors actually should be part of this map, because what's going on is after you get the map, you're wandering through and trying to assign neighbors to all of your tiles, right? Make sure everything's okay. Filling the walls should probably be part of the map maker eventually, right? So, right, this is just saying that if there's a square in an assigned spot, you should make a connection to it. Actually, both of these should probably end up in the map maker, because they're not used except in generating the map. So if it's just used in generation and not in any other part of the map, you know, if we're not going to use it as the player plays the game, only when the map is generated, then it should not be in the map class, right? So a single levels map. A level can include multiple Z levels. I'm thinking that in general I want stairways and stuff like that to be within a single level, and so the Z levels might be changing, but the map is still the same, right? You're still in the same region. It's got the same sort of story structure and all that sort of stuff. And eventually we'll do that, right? So we've got these zones. We could easily have 8 zones, one on top of, you know, 4 on top of the other 4, or 2, 2, 2, 2, something where you have a elevated thing. It's all part of one. It's got one story to it. When we get down to the stories, it'll have one story to it. It'll have one goal in the entire thing, but you go up and down during that time. So that's another thing we have to think about. All right, so I think before we go on, though, I think we probably ought to somewhere create our real random number generator. I think we're at that point. So this might take a couple of. If I have to make my random number generator now, then it's time to yeah, so self seed, right? So what we need is a large prime number for this. And since I just decided to do this, I haven't actually figured out what to do with that. So what we're going to do is take an 8. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think 8 numbers should be enough. I mean, we're not trying to, it's a pseudo-random number generator. And we're not trying, to, how should I say? We're not trying to do anything where those random numbers are super duper important, right? We just want something random. And in fact, we want these to be pseudo-random numbers so that ideally, if I make this correctly, right, then you will always end up with the same thing happening if you do the same thing with the same initial seed, right? So let's just use seed equals 1 and self.seed equals seed. All right. Let's see. I now just have to find an 8-digit prime number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so the first 8-digit prime number I find on the internet is 15485863. Okay. and just say this is prime number 1,000,000. So this is actually the millionth prime number. So it's probably not great if somebody wants to use this for cryptography. This is probably a horrible prime number to use, but this is not cryptography. Okay, and let's see, next equal next self. Current equals seed. So we're not going to use seed again, but at least I won't for now. But maybe there'll be some reason why I need it later. So I'm just going to store it. I've got plenty of time, and I'll have self n. Okay, so we find the next prime number in that, which is self seed, or new equals self current times self prime and then we want to take the remainder of self prime divided by 10 to the 8th, which is 10 million. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know why there was a self prime there. Self current equals new. Okay, and there we are. So I don't think I'll need all of that. So this is just generate next prime. And then I need a choice. Now, why do I need a choice? Well, I want to mimic the random function here, right? The pseudo-random number generator in our the pseudo-random number generator normally used by Python. So returns one member of a list. Okay, now I'm not going to do the perfect thing, right? The perfect thing would, let's see, would somehow make things perfectly 100% equal. I'm going to assume that things are going to be close enough to equal for whatever we're going to do for breaking these things into parts, right? So, you know, if we have eight different divisions, let me pull out Excel. If we have 8 different divisions, and we have 10 million things, we have 125 or 1,520,000 parts per object. So we have 8 choices. We have 1,520,000 objects that we can choose, chances per object. But there are a few extras, let's say. Actually, there aren't a few extras in this one, but let's say there were up to 7 extras in that, right? That's no big deal, right? It's only when we get to a point where we have lists of 100,000 that we're getting a 1% change, right? Or 1% error or something like that. So actually, that's probably about 7% for that. But anyways, until we get to somewhere around 10,000 to 100,000, it's completely minimal what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to use 10,000 item lists for this particular thing, so I won't worry about that. So let's see, how do I do this? Well, what I could do is just say n equals self next divided by the length of stuff. Okay, and this should give me an integer because it's the double slash, right? So and then I say return stuff n, or item. No, that's not the item, but index. So I'll use index here. So this should still give me a reasonable thing when I'm using a when I'm using one of these. And the model is now going to get one. Random self random equals, I guess it's going to be self random equals random some seed. Doesn't really matter what the seed is. We will at some point let the player choose the seed so he can have the same experience over and over and over and over and over until he gets it right, if that's what he'd like to do. So now I'm going to do the bad thing, which is let it crash until I get to a point here. So this is perfectly good. I can use self random. And I'll just keep on doing this. Until I find all of the places where... Okay, so index should not have been out of range. Okay, so what am I doing wrong? Maybe that'll do it. Okay, so that got me through the first thing. That's fine. Let's see. Now the question is am I in? I'm still in the place where we have self-random. Okay, now that's going to send me to the rooms. And okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my random number generator and create a new random number generator. So it returns a new random number generator with random seed. So we return random self next. Okay, so now actually both of those rooms have different random number generators, which is the way I want it to happen. Okay, so self members possibly I put something in the wrong order. Maybe I did next instead of new for one of those. So according to this, 2 looks to be fine. Right, 2 did what it was supposed to do. For some reason, in 3, in room 3, long object has no attribute choice. Self-random is a long integer. Okay, so oh, I did. It is next. It should be new. Okay. Let's find the next error. Oh, no more errors? Oh, got one for the AI. Right. Owner.random.choice. So each dude has to be initialized with his own AI random number, his own random number generator. Okay, so let's see if we can get to the end. Okay, so in all the places that I actually use it, that I think is it. So that took a little bit too much time. That showed you the general philosophy for the random number generator. The only sort of issue is that all the places, almost all the places, all those places now have something. So I think that's actually a good place to stop. I haven't done anything towards rationalizing the mapmaker function, but I have basically gone through and made that random number generator that we're going to be able to use going forward as something that we can always use to make a game with one seed the same no matter what. In fact, possibly we could do it in such a way that we let the player choose to play the game with different seeds every time. He gets to choose a player seed, right? Throw into the player a random number generator, and everything will be fine. So the player needs his own random number generator. As well. Now I think the only issue here is that if I run this, I always get the same setup, right? But let's see what happens if I change this number. I'll just change it by a factor of 10. And see that now it changes. But now each time I run it, it's going to be exactly the same. Right? Key here, MacGuffin here, wizard there. Right? So key here, MacGuffin there, wizard there. Always exactly the same with the same random number seed. That's why we want a pseudo-random number generator again. Okay, so that's enough for now. That's 30 minutes of me talking about, flailing around with that random number generator. I guess most of the flailing around, most of the flailing around was finding all the different places I've already used a random number generator. Some things like the map, I don't think it really needs one. In the rooms, the room itself doesn't need one, really, because mostly they're used for generation stuff. And so the generation stuff we want to push out somewhere else. I did have one major logic error when I was looking for stuff, and that was here. For some reason I divided these two things. What I want to do is I've got next divide, a random number between 0 and 10,000, I think. Seems to be perfectly fine. I'm not getting any errors. So, I've got this number divided by that number times the length of the list, right? For some reason I divided this number by that number. That didn't really work out right. So basically I'm getting the percentage, I think. I think it needs that million. So let's okay, the million was an issue. Okay, if I change it by 1, the map should probably change. Which means this number is too large. 1, 2, 3. No, that number is not too large because it would not go out of range if it was too large. If it's not too large. Okay. Let's see. Now that's not sensitive enough. I have not enough numbers in my next. Okay, so that is probably sensitive enough. So this guy's over here. Let's see. Now he's over here. That guy's over there. Yeah, so things are changing. It's just not enough things going on that I can be really sure. Yeah, that's sensitive enough. Okay. All right, so that's enough for now. So I haven't even gotten to this part, so I need a RNG. Okay, so this is a bad sign. This is a bad sign. I already thought this was a little bit too long here. And already I've just put the random number generator together and it's 40 minutes long. So, well, we will see what happens in the next time. All right? Get your popcorn.